Hi, folks. Thanks for joining us for this week's webinar, The Blueprint to Your Business. The presentation will begin in just a few minutes, but I just wanted to make sure that all the systems are running smoothly. I want to make sure that you can see me and you can see John, you can hear us, that you can see John's screen okay. If you're having any issues throughout the presentation, feel free to put it in the chat box and we'll make sure to get any issues sorted out. My name is Madeline and I will be your host for today. Welcome to today's presentation, The Blueprint to Your Business. Today's webinar is brought to you by Leap. Leap is a sales software that reduces errors and redundancies that slow down your sales process. Leap allows the owner or someone accountable to control all prices, profit margins in one central location, whether you're roofing, windows, siding, flooring, kitchen and bath, or any other home service. You can use the power of Leap to make your customizable sales platform your own. With Leap, you can take documents, estimates, brochures, personal checks, handwritten notes, measurements, and put them into one digital location that powers your business. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about Leap, I'm going to launch a poll now. If you say yes, someone from our team will reach out to you to just tell you a little bit more about our business and how that we can help you. And if you say maybe later, no worries at all, we can get you on the next webinar. I'm going to give you a little time to put in your answers there. Perfect. Thank you so much for answering. And if you did answer yes, we'll make sure to reach out to you within the next few days. Now, for what you all have been waiting for, I'd love to introduce you to our guest speaker today, John Kenney. John Kenney is a Chief Executive Officer at Kenney Consulting. Prior to joining Kenney, John had 45 years of experience in the construction industry. John started with his career by working as a roofing apprentice at a family business in the Northeast. He also managed many successful projects in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania markets before continuing his accomplishments in Florida. Because of his skills and hard work, he progressed from roofing laborer to foreman, estimator, chief estimator, vice president, and chief operating officer with his various companies. And now I'd love to turn it over to John Kenney.
Thank you. Glad to be here today. Looking forward to having a great presentation, and thank you everybody for joining. So today we're going to start out with blueprints for your business. So where this title came from is I actually wrote a book called Blueprints to Your Business, How to Run Your Roofing Company. And I thought it was time. Been in here, in the industry for so long, and I wanted to kind of lay out what I learned over the years and what you need to know, because I wish I would have had this when I started out. So today I had to boil it down. Of course, it's not going to be nowhere near as thorough as what I put in writing because we have a limited amount of time. But what we are going to cover today are some of the more important items that I think it's worth you knowing. Your role as an owner in your roofing company or remodeling company, it really doesn't matter. They're all construction companies are very similar. Understanding your finances, building your team, marketing, business development and sales, estimating and project management, subcontractor management, and we're going to end with risk management. So what we're going to go is look a little bit about your role as the owner, right? So as you own your business as an owner, you assume basically three primary titles, especially when you start out. You're the leader, you're the manager, and you're the stakeholder. Stakeholder simply means you're the owner of the business, but you also need to lead and manage that business. So really, these are only titles to your name until you learn how to fulfill these responsibilities and what's implied in them. So, you'll have to uniquely define these roles for yourself as you grow in each area of responsibility. There is no strict template on how to be the right leader, the right manager, or the right owner. What I mean by that is you have to take your personal, your own personality and put it in here and learn. But there are some certain things that we'll go over you need to know. Leadership sets the course. Right away, out of your three hats, leadership is very important. Leadership is challenging because it's a balancing act that you do daily, right? You must use your insight, your experience, and your tenacity to balance adverse demands on both short and long-term results. You're it. This is on you. Every leader must come into their own and develop their own core leadership values. Leadership sometimes can be scary when you first start out. You read books, you learn, you may have been a leader at certain levels throughout your life, but you will start to come into your own as you lead your company. You have to have an awareness of yourself and the situation you're leading through. So you have to know yourself very well, but you also have to know the actual situation that you're going to be leading through. So it all starts with vision. That's where it begins. So what is vision? Vision is very simply broken down. It's your mental picture of what the future is. So it's how you see it. If you're seeing what the future is, before it happens, it's not about being psychic or anything, but leadership, part of that is some psychic ability. You have to be able to look way out in the future to see where you're going to be before you get there. And that's how you do get there. Leaders and managers, they do differ, but you have to be both, right? So the main distinction between leaders and managers is that people follow leaders and people work for managers. So, as your company grows, you will start to put managers in place, which will then become your leaders of the future. But in the beginning, you both lead and you have to manage. As a successful business owner, you must be a strong leader and a manager to get your team on board. And, they're going to follow you towards your vision of success. So again, you have to have that vision in order to lead. Leadership involves getting people to understand and believe in your vision and work with you to achieve your goals. Again, if you don't have a clear vision, you cannot get people to buy into that vision, you're not going to be able to lead them. But at the same time, while you're doing that, you have to have management role, right? Which is going to require you to administer and make sure the day-to-day items in your company are getting done and happening as they should. So you got to lead and you've got to manage at the same time. So we'll give you a couple guiding principles that you can keep in mind to help you along the way. So as a leader, right, breaking it down into two simple facts. As a leader, you'll focus on the interpersonal relationships, both within and outside your organization. So you have to be outgoing as a leader and you got to focus on those relationships. You want to become a true leader, a fearless innovator who challenges the status quo and never hesitates to take risks while ensuring high rewards for yourself, your employees, and your customer and your clients. It has to be a win-win for everybody involved. So now your management role, so you got your leadership role down, Pat. Now your management role. As a manager, though, you got to be responsible for communicating those philosophies and policies of your organization to your employees. Very important that they understand what is expected, when it is to be done, and how it is to be done. That's your manager role. So you map out these process for improvement strategies to streamline your operational efficiencies and to help your team achieve their KPIs, key performance indicators. Very important when you're managing a team to have key performance indicators so everyone knows exactly what the goals are to hit. And unlike a leader, as a manager, you handle daily operations and work at the implementation and delivery level. So what that means is you're hands-on. So a leader is a 30,000-foot view, manager's hands-on, but you as a business owner have to learn and how to manage this and how to do these at the same time. And it's a skill and it takes some time, but if you work on it, you absolutely will master these. So I'm going to give you some tips or some advice, right? Tame your ego. I know you have ego. We all have ego, right? So as a business owner, having some ego to drive your self-confidence is absolutely necessary or you're not going to succeed. But you have to keep your ego in check. High-performing leaders know how to keep their ego in check. You will not become a good leader or present yourself as a good leader if you have ego and it's all about you. You got to tame it. You want enough ego to drive, but not enough to over. Leadership in time of crisis. Anyone can lead during the good times. It is when there is a crisis, an issue, a problem that is going to establish your credentials by how your actions are as either being a good and great leader or a poor one in a time of crisis. So that is where you will excel, and you need to excel being your own business owner. You're also owner manager, right? So when you first start out, or even as you grow through the company, and I even found this as I went all the way up into higher levels of companies, you still have owner and managers dual role, but they have separate responsibilities and you need to learn that. So, again, you're always going to be the owner and the manager. So you're going to be 30,000-foot view and hands-on, and it's a balancing act, and you just need to work on how that meshes the best with you and your team. You want to establish your corporate culture, right? Your company culture is definitely challenging to define. It's a hard thing to sit down and do. But once you do that and you get it all in the same motion, it's going to influence all aspects of your business, your client base, your employee base, how your team operates, how you operate and go to business. And most importantly, regularly assess, right? Whatever your culture is now or whatever you set in place, your values and all that are going to change. They need to be living documents because as your business develops, and evolves, the perks and benefits are going to be different to get staff in. You may not have health insurance when you start out, but 5 years from now, you're large. You have health insurance, you have different perks. So your company culture may change or your SOPs change. Continually assess your current operations and move from there. Most importantly, as a leader, you've got to remain flexible. You cannot be my way or the highway. It does not work, especially in today with multiple generations out there in the workforce. You need to move and be flexible and listen, but make your decisions, and your decisions are final, but that doesn't mean they're not changeable down the road if the situation changes, or facts. So that's why you need to be flexible. So your finances, right? So we're not going to go deep dive into how to read them and all that in this one, but we're going to talk a little bit about cash flow. Cash flow, steady cash flow is the lifeblood of any business, especially in a construction industry as a contractor or running your projects. If your cash dries up, you dry up. So the top two reasons for business failure in our industry are lack of capital to start out with, or poor management of that capital in the business. That is why businesses in our industry go out of business the quickest, is one of those two reasons. So you as the owner or the leader of your business, or even if you're of a larger company and you're in a management role, high up senior management, you're going to play a central role in the money game, right? It's always your responsibility to verify the owner's ability to fund the job you're going to do, and also make sure they be able to tap into a reserve for unknown costs. This is as important on doing a house remodel, a house re-roof, as it is doing a large commercial project. You got wood replacement, you run into bad issues. Do they have the wherewithal to pay these additional funds? Is there a reserve set? Don't be afraid to ask these questions, because it's your business and your livelihood on the line if they cannot pay you. You must also hire financially sound subcontractors and other vendors who have a history of completing projects on time and within project budgets. We're going to cover a little bit deeper in the end of this on subcontractor management, but you want everybody that's on your team to be financially, wherewithal of what's going on and how to manage your projects and your time and your money. So let's go into building your team, right? So building a successful team is really not about finding a group of people that have the right mix in professional skills, right? No, that's not really it is. Before you even start to select your team, you need to know how you work. And as that team leader, you need to be aware of and understand your leadership style and techniques, because you will be bringing people into your company that you're going to be leading and directing. And if you don't know yourself, how are you going to be able to interview the team that you want to bring in? So you have to be self-aware. So want to be aware of and understand your leadership style and techniques, right? So a couple things here. You can ask yourself, are your leadership styles and techniques as effective as you think? You need to be hard on yourself. You need to look at what you're doing and make sure that your company is getting the bang for the buck out of your leadership skill, techniques, and how effective you are. How well are your leadership styles and techniques by the people you're currently leading? If even if you're in a foreman's basis or a superintendent, project manager, in administrative, wherever you're in now, if you're, thinking of starting your own business, or you are just starting your business, you have 1 or 2 employees, how effective are you at leading these people? What do they think? What do they think, right? Find out. Evaluate yourself and be critical about improving, especially in areas that will benefit, those you're leading. So you're not only benefiting yourself, but you want to be critical and improve so that you're giving the best of you as a leader to the people that are on your team. So being in charge does not mean that those who work for you will appreciate how you work, okay? Ensure you hold yourself accountable and correct and modify your approach if necessary. I can tell you, coming through the ranks over the years, there has been nothing more killing and toxic in any company than a leader, somebody in a leadership position that doesn't hold themselves accountable and doesn't correct or modify their problems or issues because they can get away with it because we're in that position. So you don't want to be that. You want to make sure you're holding yourself at a higher standard, at least the standard you're holding your employees to, but always walk the walk. You have to. Once you've developed yourself and led from a position of strength and respectability, you then can start to build a successful team. So you can see these are all things you need to put into this prior to starting that hiring process and building your team and so on. So work on yourself. Self-improvement is a great thing. There's plenty of books out there that can help you, YouTube videos. Work on your style that works best for you. So tips to apply to your team or organization, right? Establish strong leadership. We've gone through some of these things, but establish yourself as a strong leader and have strong leadership throughout your company. Have a clear roadmap. What I mean by that is have a roadmap, a document written down, whether it's your business plan, whatever it is, lay it out in an SOP so that everyone that walks into your company knows exactly from your vision and your mission where you're going with this, so they can jump on board and help get you there. Have a common scoreboard. So again, this comes down to evaluation. So you want to have the same scoreboard. Let's just use sales personnel for this, right? Whatever you set as your goals, your standards, your minimum standards, your whatever you set for each salesperson, they all need to be the same. Now, it can be adjusted based upon the entry level into the industry compared to, one person may be expected to sell more because they have more advancement. But the same goes on your operational team. Don't have favor. Have a scoreboard. Everyone knows how they're going to be evaluated, and have it the same so that everyone doesn't change and even change up within themselves, right? Keep it standardized. Build a connection with your team. You truly cannot lead or develop or even run your company if you are disconnected from the people who work for you. It will not happen. Define roles and responsibilities clearly. Some of the biggest problems that I've seen over the years is people go into a company, they don't have a defined role. They're handed a job description, which at best is usually not very good. And exactly what their day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month, and ultimate goals are within the year of their responsibilities are not defined well. And that's where you start to run into people on your team that fail, that could be excellent team members, but it's because you didn't define the roles and the responsibilities up front. Always be proactive on feedback. This is for good and for bad. Something goes wrong, you have a problem with an employee, you have a problem with a team member, you have a problem on a project, you got to get your feedback right away. Talk about it, figure out what went wrong, don't let it happen again. Same way if someone does something good, immediate. The only thing I do recommend is it's okay to praise in a group, but it's not okay to bring up issues in a group. You want to do that one-on-one. So just keep that in mind. That's what good leaders do. Acknowledge, reward, and celebrate success. You got to have your team meetings. Maybe you're having a breakfast, a luncheon, have an outing, whatever it is. Celebrate the successes. Celebrate the successes of your project, your company, whatever you want to set. But make sure that you celebrate and acknowledge people who do a good job and reward them as such. Great way for team building is build a culture of volunteering. You should always have team building activities. And I'm going to tell you, I'm not one that's much for sitting and putting puzzles together. And I know I'm giving simplified answers, but I've been at team building exercises where we've taken straws and tried to build a building. I don't really get much out of that for myself. What I've always liked to do is when you could take parts of your team or all of your team, depending on it, maybe do, habitat building, do volunteer work, go help out a nursing home, whatever it may be, get your team together. I mean, we even done one where we went and worked with the fire department locally and went around and changed the batteries in the senior citizens' homes. That is fantastic camaraderie. It's great for your team building exercises, and it builds a culture of volunteering, which always pays off. So I covered this in one section: marketing, business development, and sales. Because I can tell you, most people absolutely get this mixed up. They really consider sales to be business development and marketing, or they have no marketing. We got to do some marketing, but sales covers business development. They're three different things, but they interact, right? There is a difference. So when developing business, we're going to talk about it first, business development strategy. You got to have a strategy, right? So first thing you do is, how are you going to get customers, right? So you have to have a business development strategy. That's a plan. Should be part of your business plan, but you can have a separate plan as well, as so that you can work just off of that. And marketing and sales is absolutely an essential piece of your business development strategy, right? It's always best to build a sales and marketing strategy with your business development goals in mind. So what I mean by that is, let's just say your goal is to do X amount of projects in an income area of this, and from that get X amount of repeat business, whatever it is. That's a strategy, right? Now you can go to market with that. You go to market with your marketing is developed around that, and your sales processes, your sales efforts are all around what your business strategy was. Now, you're not developing yet. This is just part of your business strategy. So they depend upon each other, but they're absolutely not the same. They are separate. So I kind of gave you a scale below to show you the three different, and why I did that. And it's, if you look all the way over to the right, you're going to see marketing. Marketing, once you get your strategy in place, marketing has to happen first. You want to get that out there in front of your potential clients, and then your business development comes in after marketing launches and tries to build up the relationships. And then when those pieces come in, there's a long lag between that business development process and when the marketing started to business development all the way over to sales. That's why I put it on a scale like this. Sales don't just happen. They are a lot easier to make happen if you have a strong marketing and business development program underneath them. So, marketing, let's talk a little bit about that, right? So executing effective marketing strategies, they're key to unlocking potential growth within your business. So marketing will help you promote your brand, build your client base, maintain relationships, gain new clients, and also develop a strong reputation among your customers. So what I mean by that is marketing, whether it is, down below is the different ones, whether it's social media, your website, paid advertisement, TV, whatever you do, you have to have a strategy to do that, because it's touching everything that I just discussed here of, building relationships, maintaining them. I mean, looking for new clients, and, you want to have a strong reputation. So some critical elements to consider when you're putting your marketing plan together is have a streamlined website. I used to be of mindset, the more information on a website, the better. Now I'm doing more deep dive studies into what people really react to on the psyche of development. You want to have as clean a website as you can, have all your information that is needed, but make it very easy, not jumping from page to page. Now they have a lot of the single websites where you click on a button and it's still on the same page. It loads very quickly. Streamline your website, very important. Utilize various social media platforms. What I mean by that is, if you are in the residential only market, you probably LinkedIn is a great place to have some brand reputation, but you're not going to find your customers there because that's mainly B2B. So Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, whatever works. So there's other forms out there. But, if you're marketing in both, you want to have it planned out so that you know where your money's being spent and what your target market is. Use them all. Plenty of social media platforms to utilize. TikTok, endless amount. Giving back to your community. That is a great way to market your company. Like we talked about, if your team building activities are based around volunteering and you're out within there, you'll get press out of that. You release it on your social media. A lot of times the local newses are there. They're going to pick that up. So that's a great way of doing it. And most importantly, advertise to a targeted market. There is nothing more frustrating for a business owner to spend a lot of money on a wide blanket campaign and find out they're not getting the results. You're much better off having pinpoint marketing and expand out than you are doing it the opposite way. You're just going to waste money. And this is something that people don't do enough of. Earn positive customer testimonials, not just Google reviews. Get letters, get the videos, have a video of a satisfied customer that you can use in your social media or off your website. Get as many as you can. That is absolutely free marketing. So role of business development, touching on this a little bit. Business, when a business starts up, you're going to have a different goals for business development than you are as a mature company you grow. The reason is business development roles changes as a company grows, and what's valuable in the beginning is different later on. So to kind of put that in a real simple format, when you first start your business, you need work. You have to get enough work to cover your overhead and everything else. So your business strategy of business development may be a lot more aggressive, and it very much teeters on a hard sales than it does an established business development. But you want to be flexible and change as you grow. So here's some tips for your business development. Business development is about building relationships, not selling. Separate that in your mind and you're going to be successful. It has nothing to do with your salespeople. It is just about getting out there, brand relationships, having people know who you are, building for the future. That's what business development is. It's a slow process, but an absolutely valuable process for growing. Communicate your company's value, and tap into your customer base. That's what it's about. Business, you go to events, you go to a charity event, you go to an industry event. That's where you develop your relationships, get your brand out there. Your relationship and partnership, building, right? You got to focus on getting your company connected to the right customers in the most advantageous and inventive way possible. So again, a lot of this, coming out of pandemic, especially face-to-face, get yourself out in front of as many people as you can, do speaking engagements when possible. Those are business development techniques. Work all your network connections, right? You've got your own database as you grow, continually work them. Whoever was a no at one time may not be a no later. Keep building relationships. And when you can, get a big client, right? If you have a developer or a big commercial client or a high-end residential, get that testimonial, use that for business development. Hey, so-and-so uses us, this is why. Your business success depends heavily on word of mouth. This is where business development comes in. And these testimonials, are meaningful from the customer experience supporting that concept. So that's where your business development comes in very handy, getting those testimonials and getting them out there to build these relationships. Align your company's overall strategy with business development, explore those synergies, embrace innovation, and have an interactive mindset. Business development is not a hard set rule like putting a sales plan together or a marketing plan. You have to think outside the box on business development. You must also closely monitor and analyze key drivers of growth. You got to monitor your company, monitor where your sales are coming, monitoring where your clients are. That's all, so you can get that information and develop that into your plan. So again, your business development is living and changes as you change. So sales, right? Pretty simple on sales. Tons of courses out there. I'm sure a lot of you taking it, but sales really drills down to a few basic items. Building a winning sales culture. That is the most important, because if you don't have a winning sales culture within your organization, you just have people trying to get a deal, and you don't want that. So how do you develop this sales culture, right? First of all, hire slowly and deliberately. What I mean by that is don't just go out and say, oh, I need another salesman, increase business, and you hire whoever. No. Have this planned out and say, when I get to X and I'm stretched this far, it's time to hire, and this is the type of person I want to hire for my company. Do your DISC analysis or the personality test, see how they fit in. Always set clear goals and expectations. Never, ever have a salesperson not know what's expected of them on a daily, weekly, yearly basis, not just in sales and revenue goals, but how many follow-up calls, what you expect with repeat, drilling up new business, whatever it is, get those goals out there. Monitor that daily activity of your sales team. Until you have someone in place that can manage your sales team, you need to be the one monitoring it. Again, here, acknowledge successes and failures and gather support for robust competition. You want to drive competition among your team, and the best way to do that is in your sales meetings. Drill home activity over results. What I mean by this is you want to have a process. I will tell you right now, it usually has to get to the 7th touch out of 10 before you really get close to closing a sale. It doesn't happen in 1 or 2. You're either underpriced or very lucky, or it's a repeat customer that's going to use you anyways. So you want to drill down on what your processes are. Did they do all your activities properly? Your vetting, your emails, your sales proposals, all that. So make sure everybody's following the same. Again, recognize the team successes. This has nothing to do with commissions or bonuses. You have a party, take them to Top Golf, whatever works, celebrate that. And master the process of training. I will tell you, you need to continue to put training into your company, and you need to be the one as the owner and the leader to get that process in and make sure everyone has got ongoing development and training. Very, very important. That's how you build it. All right, let's touch on estimating. I did a presentation. I don't know if anybody saw it on the right way to estimate. It took the full time, so I just kind of bored it down into some basic, simple facts here for this one. So a knowledgeable and well-trained estimating team is only one of the key components to succeed. So what I mean by that is if you don't have a properly trained estimator, you're going to fail. So, but that's only part of it. So what you need solid processes and procedures. You need to get those in place. Estimators are definitely process and procedure driven. That's because they're wired to put estimates and pricing properly together. So you have a, what would you have? You have a pre-estimate stage, right? That's where you're reviewing the plans, the specifications, job site visit, whatever it is. That's where you're making your decision if this is a good fit for you to bid. Building your estimate. I always believe an estimate should be built from the ground up. What I mean by that is you are going to, if you're doing a roof, then you want to take it from the deck up, or if you're doing siding, it's wall out. Whatever it is you're doing, take it in the same manner that it's going to be built in the field, so you ensure you don't miss anything when you're putting your estimate together. Assemble your cost data, right? Don't forget about your own historical data. And if you're a newer company, you don't have historical data, use your knowledge from previous projects or previous estimates you've been involved in to see how your work is lining up as it's coming out of your estimating team. And especially today with all the volatile prices, make sure you have solid quotes, know how long they're good for, not only from vendors, but also your subcontractors and equipment rental. Have all that in the process. You need to establish an estimating review process. Somebody in your company, whether it's you or as you grow, someone you put in charge, has to make sure every bid is properly reviewed. Estimator should be first review, someone else should do the second check, and then the person that's responsible for the financial wherewithal of the company should have the final say at setting where the margins are. Should know the proper markup and gross margin. They are different. Markup is what your break even is. That is your overhead that your company needs to operate, and any other indirect expenses, that is your markup. Your gross profit is the amount of money that is going to cover everything else to get you to where you make some money. So your gross profit turns into net profit, which you need. Net profit is that black money left over at the bottom of your financial statement that keeps you going and keeps your cash happy. Developing your sales strategy. Now, what I'm not talking about here is your strategy of how you're going to sell, but your pricing strategy. You as an owner need to set this, right? And I'm just going to use these as simple examples. You need to decide if a job falls into this category, how much money you want to make on that job. And if you're this busy, you want to make that much more because you've got a scheduling issue, or if it comes time for work that you need, this is your sales strategy of what your pricing strategy is, right? So you need to set that as an owner. You cannot just let people price as will, or just say, oh, well, they told me if I drop my number, I can get the job. You set the pricing strategy for your company. So project management. Boiled down to project management, there's truly only 3 stages, right? There's the pre-construction stage, and that's where all your project managers should focus on thorough planning, so they ensure that your resources are efficiently deployed and utilized, right? Pre-job planning, that's most important. That's stage 1. Then during installation, stage 2, your project managers have to monitor the activities on the job site and checks the project's actual performance to the stated objectives, which is really your budget or where your milestones. You need to do that double check. And then finally, to close out a project, you have that post-job stage, right? This is where your project managers are more in an administrative role. They're not out on the job site and they're not pre-planning the next job. They're closing out this project, and you got to have finalization of project documentation, whatever's required, permit closeouts, warranties, bonds, whatever it may be. And they also need to perform tasks to close out the project in finalizing all project performance data. What I mean by that is when this is done and it's closed, whether it's on a computer or it's in a file, doesn't matter how you start out, you know how you performed on that project, what went right and what went wrong. That is your historical building of your data right there. Plus, you can't lead or manage properly if you don't know these items on how you're doing. So how do you establish, a project management, system, right? The plan, right? That's what you got to do. So your project management plan for your project should include items below, and they got to be prepared by whoever's serving as your project manager. So I just wanted to, this should be a good workflow on every one of your projects. And this is a great outline of really that works well. You're going to modify this that fits for your company, but it all has the same basic steps. You got to have a clearly defined project scope, right? If the project manager cannot clearly define from the information that he or she's been given of what the scope of this project is, you're in trouble from the beginning. That's step one. Critical success factors. What I mean by that, that's performance against budget, deadline, or other project performance indicators. So he's going to put a plan together, he or she, early and say, okay, here's my budget, so I'd be able to track against that. Here's my target milestones for different portions of the operation, or whatever other performance indicators have come through the contractual agreement. Project expectation. What is the expectations of this project? You want to have that listed so everyone on the team knows what's expected of them. Workflow breakdown. A good project manager, it's not about I got 15 days to do the job or 3 months, depending on the size of the project. It's about, well, I got to tear off, I've got to reinstall, I've got to flash, I've got to do trim work. If you're doing interior, I've got to rip out drywall, put new drywall, bathroom, whatever it is. Every one of those workflows should be broken down exactly what comes first, what's next. So if there's a bump in the road, where it was and how you correct it, how much time is allotted for each one of these workflows. Extremely important to bring your projects in. Project schedule and budget, that's normal. How long do you have to do it? What's your schedule to get done, start, finish, close out, and how much money do you have to do the budget, to do the project, right? Should have a quality control plan. Again, this can be a standardized document that you put together, but whatever the particular project is, there should be some sort of plan for quality. That's how you get your repeat business. You want to have quality work and happy clients. Worker resource allocation plan. You got to know if you got enough workers to do the job. Where are they at? Are they on another job when that job starts? Do you have too many workers on one job? So again, if you take your resources and they're properly allocated through the planning process in your project management team, you're going to have people where they need to be, when they need to be. Stakeholders list. What I mean by that is not you as the owner, but I mean, let's say you're working on a project that's more than just a homeowner, maybe a building owner, maybe an architect, could be a homeowner with an architect. You may have another prime contractor on there or other subs working together. Have that all listed out. It's kind of like your contact list, so everybody knows if something goes wrong or something needs a question answered, who do you go to for what? Very important to have that done now. Don't waste time later. Communication plan. What I mean by that is what's the communication on that project? Who speaks to who? What's the pecking order? How does it get done? And then, of course, a procurement plan, your purchase orders. How do you buy? Who you buy it from? When does it need to ship? How does it need to get there? When do I need it? I don't want it too early. I don't want it too late. I know it's a little more difficult in today's times with the supply chain, but even more of a reason to have a proper procurement plan. And then risk assessment. When all this is said and done, I like to put that last because this is where your project manager should be able to look at everything and say, hey, you know what? We've properly done all this. The risk is minimal, or these are some hot spots that we need to know about because these can be really killers to the project. So have a risk assessment at the end. Again, these do not mean you have a 40-page book to do this. They could be a simple checklist, go down through it, but develop this in your company. So all this leads to operational efficiency, right? Systems, procedures you need to have in place. I wanted to lay this out for you. Standard operating procedures are extremely important. S starts in estimating and ends in project management. You want to have a pre-screening, qualifying process, and estimating filter, whether you should or should not bid, right? Sales process and funnel. Your sales team needs to be involved. What is the processes they do, and what's your sales funnel look like? Accurate estimating and quoting process. How do you put your estimates together, and how do you get your quotes out? A systematic and prompt proposal process. How do your proposals look coming out of your company? They should all look the same. They should look professional and be laid out and understand wherever one gets picked up, it looks the same and you're not bidding against yourself. Project scheduling procedures. Once you get a contract, what happens to it? Who does what? Contract review. Execution process. Are you reviewing your contracts? Who reviews it? Do you need to go to attorney on certain ones? Are you using your blanket form? All those things need to come into play. Invoicing process. How do you get paid? This is one of the most important ones. When is the bill due? How soon am I going to get paid? Do I need signatures? Do I need approval? Do I need documentation? Have it all laid out. Change order and document control, right? What happens if something extra comes up on a job? Who has approval to sign for it? What is the pricing procedures? How do you control the documents on your project? Field production and operation procedures, extremely important. Have your SOPs put together on how you go to work in the field, how your procedures go, what happens. And then again, have project closeout procedures at the end. Talked about a little bit that earlier. How do you close these projects out? What is your checklist? So when it's done, it's done. It's paid, it's closed. Everyone's happy. You got your references. And then have a warranty program, whether you're in, roofing or remodeling or whatever it is, you're passing out warranties, whether it's your own or it's the manufacturer's. Have a follow-up. It's great to follow up with the clients to make sure everything's out. Do you need a warranty check? You can put mini maintenance plans together. I've done it a lot with the residential as well as commercial. Very valuable in your company. So subcontractor management. You're going to hire a subcontractor to perform scopes of work that you may not do in-house, right? Another trade that you're not doing in-house, or you're going to hire them to perform labor, because we all know how hard labor is to get. A lot of ways, best ways is to supplement with a subcontractor perform your labor. So managing subcontractors start with the selection of the right company that's right for your job. It's not just about, oh my God, somebody can do the work, let's hire them. That's not a successful plan. So, many projects have lost because you've had a bad subcontractor. Even throughout my career, I've seen it happen where we've lost money, lost clients because the subcontractor did not perform on the project. Whether it was a lightweight concrete subcontractor, carpentry, or a labor sub, it really does not matter. So it affects everyone. So prudence dictates that careful selection is essential, and I'm telling you, it is critical. So where do you start? The process starts right on the front end by you vetting your subcontractors and having a plan. This is not as hard as you think it is. So you need a subcontractor management plan. Work on it. People can help you. I work with people on it, but you want to put it together. Basically, it's going to outline a strong relationship between you and the people performing on your contracts. So this isn't necessarily the contract of work. That's part of it. But what this is how do you pre-qualify subs in your company, right? In the bidding process, how do they get you to bid? How do they quote? What requirements do you have to want to work with them? Do they have the same insurance that you're required to carry? Because if they don't, you're responsible for them. Have that in your list. Commencement of work. This is important that a subcontractor is aware up front when they're going to be needed, what their scope is, and how long they're going to be on there. Work site written safety plan. You want to have that because it trickles up. I will tell you right now, someone gets hurt on your project, you are not isolated from a sub. OSHA comes out on a project and finds you, whether it's residential or commercial, you will ultimately be responsible because you are the next tier up. OSHA goes where the money is. So you want to have safety training and record keeping policy. So you should already have this in your company where you're doing your own safety training and how you do your record keeping. Worst case scenario, if the subcontractors you're using do not have their own, you get them to sign off that they're following yours and that you have some kind of orientation to show them what yours is. You can cover yourself there. You want to have included that you're going to be doing safety inspections. This doesn't necessarily mean having a dedicated employee to do it. This could be when your project manager checks up on their work. We're going to do a quick safety inspection while we're there. Be aware we're going to do it and you are responsible for your own safety. These will protect you later on if OSHA comes a knocking. And you want to have a work in progress and a post-project reviews with your sub. You want to let them know how they're doing as they're doing the project. And then at the end, you want to grade them. You want to simply let them know that you were either satisfied or unsatisfied and why for either one. And that's how you mark them in your file so you know going further whether they're an A+ sub or a D sub that you don't want to use again. Very important. Risk management. So this is the final topic we're closing on here. So risk management is basically you're going to identify risk in your business, you gotta, it's a qualitative determination of real risk. So they don't just pop out in front of you, but you got to qualify and determine what the real risks are, meaning they could potentially affect your organization's achievement of its financial and strategic objectives. So when you look at this, what you got to consider a risk or a threat is something that is going to hurt you financially or strategically reaching where you want to get, which is pretty much everything in our industry. So one reliable method of risk identification is interviewing your own personnel and also going out, with external help, and even talking to expert witness that can help you with risk management. Some, your insurance agent, a lot of them have great risk management plans. They can work with you on that. Consultants, whatever you may need, but talk to your own people. You talk to your operational staff, they're going to tell you what their biggest threats are every day out there that they're facing. Your estimators, they'll tell you, yeah, our biggest threat is we're taking work we shouldn't be taking. It's wasting my time getting good work. I know I'm boiling this down, but these are all risks to get, against your financial wherewithal. Talk to your own people, understand your industry. Establish a business process maps, right? So again, this goes back to the SOPs. If everything is spelled out how you run your organization, your chances of having a risk pop out of the blue are very slim. They can happen, but you've already got processes in place to deal with them, right? And they can be used as a great guide for risk assessment, especially like estimating filters, pre-job risk analysis. This job we've never made money on, or this job we don't have the finances to complete it, or we don't have the power, workforce power, whatever it is. Those are risks against you performing. So honestly, straight up, the best way to risk management is risk avoidance. So that's why I want to close out with risk avoidance, right? Pre-planning. I cannot stress enough that you need to pre-plan in every aspect of your business operations. And this is where your SOPs come in, right? You want to always the first place this starts is at the bid stage. Before you bid a project, you don't have any risk because you haven't brought the project in the door. So analyze it to make sure that you've done, have your guidelines preset so you don't have to spend time reinventing the wheel. Look at it. If it's not a project that's fit for you or your company at the time, walk away, because whatever you think may happen will more than likely happen. Operational safety pre-planning. Once you do get a job in there, you want to have time, like we talked about with your project manager, or if you are the project manager starting out, plan your safety out, because that is a production killer. We don't want to get into employees dying if you don't have good safety, but all that ties in. So you want to have the best safety plan for each project that you do, and they're very similar. So it's not always like you're reinventing the wheel, but look, hazards. What are your hazards on this project that everyone needs to be aware of? Job mobilization. You do want to look for risks at that point. You've done your bid stage, looks good. We bid the project. We've got the project. We did our operational pre-safety, looks great. Now we're out mobilizing the job. Has anything changed? Was anything missed? Is something different than what we planned for? Take your time and review it at that point. That is your next step to avoid risk, right? And then at all job phases, jobs go in multiple phases for the most part. If it's an in and out re-roof project on a home, then probably not much is going to change. But if you're on a project that's going to go for days or weeks or months, there could be a change along that wasn't there. Another contractor made a move that you didn't plan on. Owner changed the game up. You found something, bad wood, bad decking, whatever that is. So your risk can change on the basis of how the job is going through phases. So again, always keep that in mind, risk avoidance. Individual work tasks. Again, when you're doing your pre-project planning with your project manager, do these risk tasks, right? Let's face it, tearing a roof off, you're working at night, that may have a lot more risk than other phases. So know what your plan is, do it. Have a pre-planning team. Again, this is not, having people specific to do this, but you want to include your estimating, your planning, your purchasing, cost control people, and your field operations. You want to have, basically, this is really your handoff meeting, your post-job meetings. This should be your team that is involved through the process so that they have the proper input, right? starts with the estimator. Hey, we knew this job, we took it, we do know there's some risk. Here's where I associated the risk during the bid process, right? Your purchasing guy or person raises their hand and say, hey, we can't get this material in time to, meet the schedule on this project that you've handed over. We got a problem. Cost control, right? Project manager say, hey, I looked at the budget and what I feel it's going to take it, we're not going to make it. And, your field leaders come in and say, I can't perform this job. I'm on another project. You get where I'm going. You want to get the input from all aspects, and that again, risk avoidance, right? So right there, I'm going to tell you, if you follow these steps, you're going to reach that goal. And the goal when it comes to risk is to have everyone go home every single day safely, right? And you can do that by reducing the hazards, and you have total control over that as the owner and the leader and the manager of your company. That is really on you to get all this in place for your team. And you're going to have minimize your disruption, right? By minimizing disruption to your company, you're going to increase your efficiency, and you're also going to add profits to your bottom line. And that is the goal of every business owner. Everything else is part of your goal, but that bottom line goal is you've got to make money. When you make money, you can do more things for your team, your clients, and your family. So that brings us to the end. I think we made it pretty good on time.
You did great. Thank you, John. That was an awesome presentation. I learned a ton, and I'm sure everyone on did as well. If you do have any questions for John, you can go ahead and put those in the chat box. And while we're waiting to see if anyone has one, I have a few questions for you, John.
Okay.
In the beginning, you were talking about how people follow leaders and they work for managers. If I am a manager and I want to become a leader, but I'm already in a management role, working on my leadership, do you have any steps for me, or like any guidance on where I should start?
Yes. So you can be the best man, and you need great managers. Okay. And leaders also have to have great management skills in them. So if you're in to answer your question, if you're in that managerial role and you want to then be able to get to the next level to be that leader, whether it's go out on your own or whether it is to take a leadership position within the company you're at, you got to start learning and how to get to looking at things from the 30,000 foot view and less hands-on, which means delegation. So that is one of the first things you need to learn is to let go. So to transform from that manager to the leader, you have to be able to put trust in the other people on your team to do what needs to be done. And that's how you start to climb into that ladder of leadership. And all the other things you'll need to learn to be a great leader, but that's the first transition, to be able to delegate, because managers that can never become leaders will never be able to delegate. That's your stopping point right there. If you can't delegate, you're never going to be able to lead.
That is great advice. I had a lot of ideas of where I thought you were going to take it, and that was a very different answer. So I'm glad I asked my question. And I do have one more question. Most businesses do have systems and procedures in place, whether they know it or not, as they are learning or trying to grow as a company. They're probably attending webinars, doing some research, reading books and such. How do you have any advice on how you would suggest they kind of out with the old, in with the new, how to transition their team, how to make those seamless transitions into new procedures?
On the new procedures. So again, what you want to do is evaluate your existing procedures. Doesn't necessarily mean that you've got to throw out your old procedure and bring in an entirely new one. That's why I like to look at them as living documents. So if you don't have procedures and they're all up here, first thing you do is write them down, because a procedure is not a procedure unless it's visual, because that's how people follow and do the same thing. But as you do it and what's working today, and you say, wow, I watched this great webinar, I got some great tips. What are those tips? Write them down from your webinar you saw, your class or your instructional. Go back and look and see if you don't already have them in there, but they may not be clarified. And if they are and just not clarified, that's easy. That's a quick modification. Add them in, see how it works. If they're not in there at all, then you may just at that point say, look, I'm looking at this doesn't work. You just rewrite it to what you got from your new tips, but don't just throw them away. And the only other thing I can tell you is on procedures, always look at all your procedures again from the big view because it works very well for one department, it may be lacking when it transfers over to another. So see how one procedure works. And also you don't want them overlapping where people are doing the same thing. So when I've gone in and done procedural analysis for companies, that is one of the biggest things that I found in inefficiency is departments were doing very similar things, but calling them other in their procedures. And you were basically reinventing the wheel every time it went down through your processes. So look at them that way, streamline and analyze.
Again, great advice. Thank you, John. I know that's going to be helpful to a lot of people. If you didn't get a chance to ask your questions today, I would love for you to email those to us. John has his email here on the screen, or you can email leap@bespoke@leaptodigital.com. And me and John and the entire LEAP team, and I'm sure the entire Conning team would be extremely happy to answer those questions. If you weren't able to join us live today, we will be posting this webinar on our website. So if you have any questions, if you're viewing from there, feel free to reach out no matter when you watch this, and we'll definitely get those questions answered for you. Thank you so much, John. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye,
You too.
folks.
Thank you, everybody.